a lot of the videos that we were seeing was from these prophets saying that Trump will win the 2020 election. And then when Trump didn't win the election, they were saying that, this is spiritual warfare that's happening. These are demonic spirits that are causing this election fraud, is what they were effectively saying.
Yeah, so they had already thought Donald Trump was anointed by God before the assassination attempt. And I'd imagine that after the assassination attempt in Butler, they were like, well, we knew it.
I mean, I sort of see that as quite a catalyzing event as well. Trump has actually incorporated a lot more religious rhetoric around himself and his position of power. And especially what these Flashpoint panelists are saying is that Trump was anointed by God. He has this position of power to try and save America.
Dive deep into a Times investigation. This is our Newsmaker interview, and it's about the meteoric rise of an American Christian TV show, which now has, quite a bit of influence on US politics. The channel portrays Donald Trump as, anointed by God, sent by God to save America. And there's a lot of discussions about the political fight just simply being one between good and evil. Times Radio's Jo Crawford went to one of the TV shows. It's called Flashpoint. That's right, isn't it? Yes, Flashpoint. She went to one of their live shows in Nebraska to find out more about the show's popularity.
They assassinated Charlie because Charlie would not bend the knee to the radical ideologies that seeks to eviscerate the very landscape of Western civilization and our world.
Let's bring the devil down!
Why can't we hit first and start the war and go out there and take it?
Lock up right now in the name of Jesus. Yes.
I think what really stood out to me was a lot of language about warfare, war, the enemy. I've watched previous episodes in the past, and there's talks about how people that don't align with the views that people are expressing here at Flashpoint, that there's some sort of satanic or demonic force behind them. That sounds to me like in some ways that you're demonizing these people.
Yeah, and it's kind of seeming to me like you're trying to start something by saying, we're saying the word war, and aren't you? You're trying to say things like that.
No, but that is what I'm hearing in there.
Yeah, okay.
And it is what I hear in the episodes. I just want to have a conversation about it.
Well, it's a spiritual warfare they're talking about. We're not talking about being violent. That's the left side. They seem to be violent, murdering people and stuff. So,
I mean, would you say it's just the left side, or would you say that both sides contribute to this?
God bless you. Have a good night.
Take us back to the beginning, or certainly back a few steps then, Jo. What was it about this TV show that particularly piqued your interest?
I guess it all really started to me when I was on my way to the RNC last year, and that's when I found out...
the Republican National Convention.
Yes, and that's when I heard about the attempted assassination of Trump. And I just remember going onto social media and seeing lots and lots of comments about how Trump was saved by God, and even heard from Trump himself. He said that he was saved by God to make America great again. And so I wanted to really look into that and explore that more, because I was seeing more and more on social media about this. And that's when I came across Flashpoint. So Flashpoint, we have to go back to 2015. So when Trump started to announce that he was going to run as a Republican presidential candidate, he was sort of met with skepticism from a lot of the evangelical elites. He's been married multiple times. He can't name his favorite Bible passage. We also had the Access Hollywood video that was out there as well.
Which is where he talks about groping women. He basically talks about women in a really lewd way.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I mean, a lot of people in the evangelical elites were like, does this man really represent us? And so Trump, he turned to the fringes of evangelicalism, and this one movement within it called the New Apostolic Reformation. And this is where Flashpoint comes along. September 2020, one of the key figures of the New Apostolic Reformation, Kenneth Copeland, he sets up Flashpoint. And as we heard from that little clip earlier, the show, it says that it's based on where politics and prophecy aligns. And so what they do is they try to explain political affairs, political events through prophecy and religion, and also through conspiracy as well. And what's really interesting about Flashpoint and the NAR is that they promote this idea called spiritual warfare, which is that there's a real life warfare taking place between the forces of good and evil. And so they take that quite literally. And so they say that the Democrats, they have demonic or satanic forces behind them, and that the Democrats are in some ways trying to bring America down.
And I saw the face of this Biden guy change 2 to 3 times.
Didn't one of the preachers associated with this channel say that Joe Biden wasn't real?
Yes.
This is the kind of stuff that they say.
Yeah, so we've got sort of 3 main figures with Flashpoint. We've got the host, Gene Bailey, which you can sort of see as your typical US news anchor. And what he'll do is he'll throw these news clips to his panelists. So Hank Kuhneman, he calls himself a prophet. And Gene will say to Hank, what's God saying to you about this event? And so we've had Hank, he's come up with prophecies that God will protect the US from COVID-19 because the Trump administration has sided with life in the womb, that Joe Biden doesn't exist, was replaced by a body double, but also that Trump will win the 2020 election. And what's interesting is that a lot of the panelists on Flashpoint still say that Trump won in 2020, even though he didn't. And Hank says that God hates those who call him a false prophet.
The American evangelical preacher Lance Wallnau, here he is on the show. Have a listen.
Because when he got that bullet in his ear in Butler, that pain comes back to him and throbs. Every 3 to 4 days, it stings. It goes back. He touches it. And God reminds him, you should be dead. I kept you alive to save America.
Yeah, so they had already thought Donald Trump was anointed by God before the assassination attempt. And I'd imagine that after the assassination attempt in Butler, they were like, well, we knew it.
I mean, I sort of see that as quite a catalyzing event as well. And Trump's really leaned into it as well. He's using that rhetoric too. And
he has become a lot more religious, right? Or is certainly making a lot more religious references for this audience, presumably.
I spoke to an academic called Matthew Taylor in this documentary that I did, and he really also noted on the fact that Trump has actually incorporated a lot more religious rhetoric around himself and his position of power. And especially what these Flashpoint panelists are saying is that Trump was anointed by God. He has this position of power to try and save America.
How many people in America would watch something like Flashpoint? Do we have viewing figures? Do we know how big the potential audience is?
So when it launched in September 2020, it's believed that the Victory channel was looking at around 55,000 views. And then when it came to January 2021, the month of January 6th, it's believed that it got up to around 32 million views. And the reason why I say believed is because YouTube, when in the following after the 2020 election, they said that they were going to remove a lot of videos that contained claims of election fraud. They did reverse that policy, but actually a lot of Flashpoint videos have been removed from YouTube, it appears.
So you can't quite total the number of views on them. Tell me about the link then that you found between this show and the insurrection that happened on January the 6th, the storming of the Capitol.
So as I just mentioned, there was a big build-up of views there. Yeah. And I spoke to this academic called Matthew Taylor. He did a lot of research looking at what Christians in the lead up to January 6th were consuming during that time. And he said that Flashpoint was just ubiquitous in these places. And also, Lance Wallnau, for example, videos of him as well were being spread online. And a lot of the videos that we were seeing was from these prophets saying that Trump will win the 2020 election. And then when Trump didn't win the election, they were saying that, this is spiritual warfare that's happening. These are demonic spirits that are causing this election fraud, is what they were effectively saying.
Yeah, so they really mobilised around that. Here are some clips then from episodes leading up to January the 6th, 2021.
President Trump does not need to concede. He won.
This is now or never. This is it.
I'm not going to let the enemy come in and steal my nation. And those on the left and others, even some of the Republicans that have sided with these demonic spirits, are about to experience trouble from the hand of God.
Yeah, so that's some of the context, really, about why there was that build-up, that fury, and that movement of people, I suppose, who were intent on storming the Capitol. You went to a live show in Nebraska then. So this is a Flashpoint live event, live show. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah. And basically the day before that I was supposed to go, this is when Charlie Kirk was shot and killed at a rally in Utah. Now, Charlie Kirk wasn't part of the New Apostolic Reformation, but he did feature quite a lot of times on Flashpoint, and he's also had a lot of close ties with a lot of the Flashpoint panelists. So before going to the event, I really was thinking about hearing what people were going to say about this. And what was interesting was that Donald Trump, he made a statement in response to Kirk's death, and he said that violence and murder are the tragic consequence of demonizing those of whom you disagree with. And I thought that wording was interesting when he said demonizing, because it just made me think of Flashpoint when they say that the Democrats are just satanic, demonic. And so I really wanted to pose that question to people there and say, are you concerned about the language that you're using?
Are you going to the Flashpoint
Yes.
event? What is it about Flashpoint that speaks to you?
It's the news without the spin.
I've just been watching Flashpoint for a long time, because then we find out what's going on. Otherwise, we don't know what's going on.
What do you mean by that?
As far as the news and what's happening behind the scenes, that, we just wouldn't know those things. And
What do you mean by behind the scenes?
Well, I would say just some of the corruption that's going on.
You said there's no spin, but watching a lot of Flashpoint episodes, I've heard a lot of conspiracies. So January 6th, that there was election fraud. Again, we know there's no evidence.
It's going to come out. It's going to come out. And
but, there's no evidence for it.
Oh, yeah, there's plenty of evidence. When it all comes out, you're going to see this was Obama, this was Biden. They were, it's nothing short of treason. It's coming out. It's going to come out.
Okay, if what you're saying is true, then my question is, how did Trump win in 2024 when the Democrats were at the height of power?
It was God.
There's a lot of talk about spiritual warfare. What does that mean to you?
Well, I think that's a deep question. I say that each person has a choice to make. I think this part of this day and age, we have to decide what side we're going to be on, Things are good and evil are becoming recognizable. When we see how evil can be, but we see how good it can be with somebody like Charlie Kirk, but people have to choose, and there is a reality. There really are demons, and there really are angels.
Are the Democrats demons or demonic?
I think to be honest with you, I think they're misguided.
When you have them trying to push abortion, and the Bible says that God created male and female, right? So where did this LGBTQ elemental P crap come from?
Would you say that's demonic, satanic?
Very much. Very much.
Trump said yesterday in response to the death of Charlie Kirk that murder, that violence was a result of demonizing people that we don't agree with.
That's right. And here's the thing.
Are you not doing the same thing that Trump's warning people about?
No, I am. All right, there is facts and there's truth, okay? The Bible is the truth.
Wow, okay, well, that's a bit of context for you. There was one clip I was listening to from the documentary earlier where someone is saying, that these prophets say, don't believe anything unless it comes from my mouth. And there are people who are like, well, I'm not going to believe what CNN or Fox News even tell me. I'm only going to believe what comes from the mouth of Hank Kuhneman, who we've mentioned, and his Lord of the Host Church. So that is the complete and utter... You can call it indoctrination, you can call it absolute faith, that no one else is to be trusted apart from these particular prophets.
Yeah, and I think when you throw the God element into there as well, to sort of explain the unexplainable, that's where that divide comes there, and how do you communicate with people? And the evangelical vote in America is really essential for Republican candidates. It makes around 19% of the American electorate. This is a big group of people. But what's really interesting is that the New Apostolic Reformation, the broader sector of that called Independent Charismatics, they're the fastest growing movement, both in the US and globally.
If Trump was saved by God because he wasn't assassinated, how do they view Charlie Kirk, who was assassinated, obviously?
A lot of these people were big fans of Charlie Kirk. He featured on Flashpoint a lot as well. Will
he become a saint to them because he was killed, or how do they say, well, Donald Trump was saved by God because he's anointed by God, and that's why he wasn't killed, and yet Charlie Kirk was?
We had the word Christian martyr. That was definitely a word that's been used a lot to describe Charlie Kirk by a lot of these figures. And I thought what was really interesting in Flashpoint was the question that they kept posing in the event, which was, what's next for America? How do we move forward? And I think that's sort of a question that I'm left with after making this documentary, is how does America move forward from this?
Yeah, this is a large group of people, as you said, kind of a quarter of the American electorate are signed
white
up.
Evangelicals, yeah.
Are white evangelicals. So that is a very sizable number of people. And viewers are asked to donate to it as well, aren't they?
Yes. So there is I watched a lot of Flashpoint episodes in the past. Something that definitely sticks out is monetary donations, asking for monetary donations. Flashpoint, they've gone independent from the Victory channel, so they're now going out it alone. They also host a lot of these Flashpoint live events as well. And they're saying that they're going to be launching a Flashpoint network as well. One person that I heard who was speaking on Flashpoint, they said that, it's a good return for your money if you invest in Flashpoint, not just from a monetary perspective, but also from a spiritual, religious perspective.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I see that. Okay, fine. So if you donate to Flashpoint, then you're going to be going to heaven. Well, look, it's a fascinating documentary. You can watch the whole thing. Jo's investigation is on Times Radio's YouTube channel. It's just obviously there, is it?
If you go onto the Times Radio YouTube account, it's on there. We've also got cut down clips on X, Facebook, Instagram and TikTok.
Yeah, it's a fascinating world. I guess it leaves me asking, or really drawing the conclusion that there are people who use religion to help answer society's ills and political dilemmas as well, I suppose.